Hey there, graders. It's Miss Hensley back again for Unit 3, Week 1 vocabulary. Yesterday, we learned some scientific vocabulary about the life cycle of plants. And today, we're going to learn some academic vocabulary. So these aren't words that are specific to science, but they are words that will come up in our science unit. They're more general words, but we also want to learn them, again, so that when we talk about things and when we write about things, we can use the proper language and the proper words. Makes us sound smart. Okay, so again, today you'll be successful when you write all the vocabulary words. Let's go ahead and repeat our objectives. My turn. I can learn academic vocabulary. Your turn. My turn. So I can use academic language in discussions and writing. Now it's your turn. My turn. I am successful when I write all of the vocabulary words and their definitions into my notebook. Your turn. Okay, so our first word today is going to be, let's see. Make sure you rate it, 1, 2, or 3. How well do you know it? 1, I know it really well. I could define it. 2, I know it a little. I've read it or seen it before. Or 3, I don't know that word at all. Okay. So the first, and you're not writing it in your graphic organizer. Sorry, I forgot to change that. You're writing it down in your notebook. Our first word is characteristic. That's a long one, characteristic. How well do you know characteristic? Characteristic. That's a long one, characteristic. That's 5 syllables. And you can see that ris, the 4th syllable, is the accented syllable. It's the syllable that gets the emphasis. Characteristic is a noun. And it means how something looks or what something does. So a characteristic of something is how it looks or what it does. That goes with people too. So characteristic. One characteristic is that blob skin is blue. Okay. So if we're looking at a characteristic, something about how he looks or something that or what he does, one characteristic of blob is that his skin is blue. Another characteristic of blob is that he's round. Okay. Another characteristic is that he likes to wear hats, right? Those will all be characteristics about blob because it's how he looks or what he does. How something looks or what something does is its characteristic. Okay. I know it's a long one, so if you need more time, pause the video. We're moving on to our next word. And our next word is conditions. How well do you know the word conditions? Could you tell me what it means right now? Is that a 3? Could you tell me that you've heard it before? You've maybe read it before, but you don't exactly know what it means? That would be a 2. Or if you've never heard it before at all, give it a 1. Conditions. Conditions, 3 syllables, is a noun, and it's a situation with respect to circumstances. Well, that doesn't tell us a lot, Miss Hensley. A situation with respect to the circumstances, that's the conditions. So let's try and look at a sample sentence and see if that helps us. Clear skies and wind are good conditions for sailing. Okay. 100-degree temperatures and a swimming pool gives good conditions for swimming, right? If it's 50 degrees outside and it's raining, those conditions are good for staying in the house. They're bad conditions to go out and try and do something. So conditions, what the situation is with respect to the circumstances surrounding it. Okay. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. We're moving on to our next word. And our next word is depend. Depend. How well do you know depend? Is that a 1, 2, or 3? Depend, 2 syllables. A verb this time, that means it's an action word, and it means to need something or someone for support. To need someone or something for support is to depend on that someone or something. A baby depends on its mother. It needs its mother for support. Okay? Depend, to need something or someone for support. Go ahead and pause the video here if you need to. We'll move on to the next word. Growth. How well do you know the word growth? We've talked about growth this year, so hopefully it's at least familiar. At least it's maybe a 2 that you know it a little. We talked about growth for math scores. What does growth actually mean? Well, growth, one syllable, is a noun, and it means how much bigger something gets. So when you're talking about growth, you're talking about something getting bigger. Here's a sample sentence. A plant's growth depends on sunlight, water, and good soil. So how much bigger a plant gets depends on what kind of sunlight, water, and soil it gets. Growth. Okay, pause the video if you need. We're moving on. Our next word is produce. Produce. How well do you know produce? Produce, 2 syllables, is a verb, and it means to make something. So when you produce something, you make something. The factory produces cars.
I make noise.
My son produces noise at the most inopportune times. Produce. What do you produce? All right, that's our last word for this vocabulary day. I'll be back with you in 2 more weeks for some more vocabulary. Make sure that you've got everything written down so that you can add it to your My Vocabulary notebook tomorrow.